Hello everyone, today is 25th of March, now it's 15 to 10 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for a day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Second update will be a little bit late in the evening on my Patreon page, and in between two updates I will upload headlines, new episode of headlines, with short summary of the news that I will talk about during the second update. That's been said. Let's talk about news now, and first of all, short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. According to reports from Russian media and a number of Russian military channels during the previous night, late evening yesterday and during the night, Russian armed forces conducted missile and drone strikes on logistical and military infrastructure of Kiev regime, and this time main direction of these strikes were southern regions of Ukraine, Nikolaev region and Odessa region. Also explosions were heard, according to some reports, in Kryvyi Rog area. During the day, most likely Russian Defense Ministry will share this additional information about these strikes, and of course I will report about it on my Telegram and the next updates. When it comes to line of contact, there was no reports about significant changes on Kherson direction or Zaporozhye sector of the front line. In South Donetsk sector, main hotspot is of course still Novomykhailovka settlement. Russian forces had some progress during the local scale offensive operations, but this settlement is still disputed between the sides. And also some military channels reported that Russian armed forces conducted local scale offensive operations in on the western side of Vremevsky salient area. And if Russian side will continue intensifying pressure on Ukrainian units in Vremevsky salient direction, then maybe in upcoming days we will see some offensive operations towards Urozhaynaya, Staromayorskaya settlements. Time will tell. When it comes to southern flank of Donetsk sector, main hotspots are of course Georgievka settlement, and Russian armed forces had significant progress in the direction of Georgievka, although settlement is still disputed between the sides. Ukrainian forces still are holding to some positions in the northern or northern-western part of outskirts of this settlement, and of course Krasnogorovka is a main stronghold of Kiev regime in southern flank of Donetsk sector, and Russian forces are increasing pressure on Krasnogorovka direction also, although majority of this settlement is still under Ukrainian control. But yet again, offensive operation in direction of Krasnogorovka began just recently, and of course it will take some time before Russian armed forces will establish control over this settlement. And what is also important to keep in mind, that Russian armed forces using this active defense strategy, which basically means that Russian units are trying to demilitarize Kiev regime forces on more or less same line of contact by creating traps on the front line, and Krasnogorovka can be seen as another trap. Yet another trap, where Kiev regime will send more and more units in upcoming days and weeks, and Russian armed forces, Russian Air Force will definitely do its best to demilitarize those forces. When it comes to central part of Donetsk sector or Avdiivka direction, a few days ago I reported that Russian armed forces had significant progress. Toninkaya, Orlovka is under Toninkaya and Orlovka under Russian control. Russian forces conducting offensive in direction of Semyonovka. Some military channels reporting that Russian forces already entered Semyonovka, although I did not see any photo or video confirmation. But in any case, Semyonovka, Ukrainian units in Semyonovka and Berdichi are in extremely difficult situation, and most likely before end of this week, maybe both these settlements will be under full Russian control. Defense lines of Kiev regime in this area from Tonika to Berdichi definitely are collapsing, and Ukrainian units are not just unable to hold on to their positions, but are basically forced to withdraw from this area, which opens, by the way, strategic space for Russian armed forces. And when it comes to northern flank of Donetsk sector, Bakhmut, Chasiv Yar direction, of course, already everyone knows at this point that Krasnaya or Ivanovska is under full Russian control, which means that Russian armed forces had now better positions to concentrate on Chasiv Yar direction. And according to some reports, Russian armed forces are already on the outskirts of Chasiv Yar, just about 1500 meters from this so-called Canal district, this area. Although battle for this part of Chasiv Yar will take some time, undoubtedly, because if you take a look at the map, as you can see, it's high-rise apartment blocks in this part of the city, also industrial area. And of course, therefore, to minimize casualties, Russian armed forces will take time while conducting offensive towards Chasiv Yar. And according to reports that I see, Russian forces using railway and moving forward alongside the railway to conduct offensives from the northern side of this canal district. And when it comes to northern sectors of the front line, in Seversk direction, Russian forces increasing pressure, not just in Belogorovka area, which is disputed for a very long time now between the sides, but Russian forces increasing pressure on Ukrainian units from southern side in Razdolovka, Fyodorovka areas. And we clearly have indicators which, according to which we would not be mistaken if we will say that most likely after Avdiivka, next major direction of Russian sectoral scale offensive operations, not a major offensive, but sectoral scale offensive operation, will be Seversk. I said this from very beginning when Russian forces established control over the Avdiivka, when I was asked in which direction Russian forces will focus now. I said most likely Seversk, because by establishing control over the Seversk and surrounding areas, Russian forces basically are opening space for further offensives towards last strong, more or less strong and capable defense line of Ukrainian forces, which is Kramatorsk-Slavyansk. And now we have more and more indicators that most likely Seversk will be the next direction of sectoral scale offensive from Russian armed forces. And by the way, when it comes to Terny, Yampolovka area, Russian armed forces increasing pressure in these areas also, right next to Zheribets River on the left bank of the Zheribets. Russian forces are on outskirts of Terny, and some military channels even are expecting Russian forces to enter this settlement in upcoming days. I have different reading of the situation. I don't see any reason why should Russian forces enter any of these settlements, Yampolovka and Terny, while they can use both these settlements as a trap. And therefore, I think before, if Russian armed forces have no plans right now to conduct some sectoral scale offensive in this direction with crossing of Zheribets River, then I think probably Russian forces will maintain high level of pressure on Ukrainian formations in Terny and Yampolovka area without entering these settlements, because they can use both these villages as a trap and force Kiev regime to send more and more reinforcements towards these villages. which opens, of course, for Russian forces opportunity to target these reinforcements and the resupply convoys on their way from, let's say, Belogorovka, Kolodezi, and the rest of the settlements around, while they are moving towards these two villages, and while they are crossing also a river. And Kupiansk direction, by the way, no, I did not see any reports about significant changes in Kupiansk direction. Well, main hotspot is, of course, still Sinkovka settlement. Also, it's like Belogorovka on Seversk direction. Sinkovka is also hotspot for a very long time now, for a very long time. And because of the difficult terrain there, in both cases, in Belogorovka area, in Sinkovka area, because of the difficult terrain, this struggle, these battles for control over these settlements are taking a really long time. That's been said, I will continue with some additional news now. And TASS news agency is reporting that Russian air defense systems shut down 11 Ukrainian drones over the Rostov region during the previous night and early hours this morning. Although, according to RIA Novosti and several other channels, unfortunately, several Ukrainian drones managed to bypass in Rostov region Russian air defense systems and target Novocherkassk power station. There was a fire in the area, which was extinguished. I believe emergency services are working to neutralize consequences of that strike. RT is reporting that US, according to Russian ambassador into US, Washington has dismantled its counterterrorism cooperation with Moscow. Russian ambassador in Washington, D.C., Anatoly Antonov, has claimed. The diplomat added that joint work in this field had been among the key aspects of the partnership between the two nations. This is an important statement, I believe, because if you remember, on 7th of March, it was, maybe the day earlier, US Embassy and British embassies of some other Western states come up with the statements when they were calling for the citizens to avoid gatherings of the people in the city, including concerts, by the way. And because of the imminent threat of terrorist attack. And the question is rising, what Washington knew, what US Secret Services knew, and what information they shared with the Russian side. And because of this statement of Russian ambassador in US, I guess US Secret Services did not share any information with the Russian side at all. They knew the terrorist attack was planned by Kiev regime on Crocus City Hall, and they said nothing. They just published information on the website of the embassy, and that's it, which definitely can be seen as an indicator that cooperation in counterterrorism matters between two sides had finished, which is unfortunate, really unfortunate, and Washington will learn hard way that they made a big mistake. That's all I will say for now. Plantoru is reporting that Russian armed forces, as you know, 2 days ago, Kiev regime conducted a quite large-scale missile strike on Crimea towards Crimean Peninsula. Sevastopol city was main target of Ukrainian forces, and during that operation, according to several military channels, Kiev regime was using about 9 planes Su-24s and Su-27s to launch cruise missiles, French and British cruise missiles, Scalp and Storm Shadow. I reported about these strikes yesterday or day before yesterday. And what is interesting, yesterday several media outlets reported that as a countermeasure from Russian side, in Nikolaev region, in Martinovka airfield, strikes was conducted by Russian armed forces, and during those strikes, 2 Ukrainian Su-24 frontline bombers were destroyed, which is significant, and I believe these Su-24s were using this Martinovka airfield in Nikolaev region just to refuel and then fly away somewhere in the western Ukraine to hide in some forest area. I don't think these planes are based on airfields. Most likely they are using just ordinary roads. They can take off even from fields, by the way. That's how they are designed. This is Soviet aeroplanes, very robust. They can take off from unprepared fields even. So that's why it is quite difficult for Russian armed forces to track these planes, their location, their final destination location, to destroy them on their bases. Well, whenever opportunity opens up, Russian forces conducting strikes, and if these 2 Su-24s were destroyed, this is a big deal, of course. Only so many planes Kiev regime has left now, and destruction of any planes now it's a big deal. And when it comes to missile strikes, of course, many of you know, I also reported that yesterday Russian armed forces conducted strikes on military and logistics infrastructure of Kiev regime, mainly in the western regions of Ukraine. Some energo facilities, gas storage facilities were targeted, training grounds of Kiev regime forces, where mercenaries were also located, and also airfield, by the way, which most likely was planned to use for F-16s. According to rumors that are circulating in internet, there was some even installations built in that airfield to conduct some maintenance work on F-16s, and that airfield, according to reports, are now out of order. Interfax is reporting that well, Poland made a statement that during the previous Russian large-scale missile strikes on logistics and military infrastructure of Kiev regime, one of the Russian missiles, cruise missiles, crossed border between Ukraine and Poland for 39 seconds, and then went back to Ukraine, western Ukraine. And the Polish Air Force was on alert. Several planes take off, and one of the high-ranking officer of Polish army even stated, I did read on one of the media platforms, that according to Polish high-ranking military officials, they were ready to shut down this missile if they will realize that this missile was targeting Polish territory. But there was no need to do so, because after several seconds it went back to Kiev regime. I don't know, can we trust statement from Polish military or not? Theoretically speaking, they could shut down missile. It's not big deal really, especially if it was a low-speed cruise missile. But yet again, maybe this is just maybe this officer was just bragging about. That's also a possibility. And Poland summons Russian envoy over missile incident. Warsaw summoned the Russian ambassador on Sunday after claiming that one of the Russian missiles launched at Ukraine had briefly entered the Polish territory. Okay, if Warsaw is sure that missile entered Polish territory, it's quite understandable that they will summon Russian ambassador. RT is and will expressed their protest about it. Okay. RT is reporting that France is rising terrorism threat level. So France has raised the terrorism alert level across the country following attacks on music venue in Russia, which left 137 people dead. On Friday, 4 men opened the fire inside the Crocus City Hall outside Moscow and set the building ablaze. All of the terrorists were later detained while attempting to flee by car in the direction of Ukrainian border, according to President Vladimir Putin, Russian president. Following their attacks on Moscow, French president has convened a meeting of the National Defense and Security Council this evening. French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal wrote on X, in light of the Islamic State's claims that it was responsible for the attacks and threats looming over the country, we have decided to raise the VY pirate plan to the highest level. So alert, they rise alert regime to the highest level. Yet again, by the way, we clearly can see that Western ruling elites, Western governments and Western media are trying to distract public, Western public first of all, by almost in every single statement pointing out at IS, if it's exclusively IS to be blamed. No one in Russia, very few in Russia, really believes that this was IS and Ukraine had nothing to do with it. It might be organized by Ukraine and IS together, Ukraine's Kyiv regime and IS together, or maybe IS used as a shield, because IS is created by CIA, by the way, US Secret Services, and they can order one of the groups of that IS to publish information that it's that they are taking responsibility for this attack. It's not, technically speaking, this is nothing for CIA, because they are running IS. Everybody knows this on this planet. And CIA is a terrorist organization also. Of course, obviously, I mean, it's factual. CIA is responsible of killing of civilians and terror in this world for decades and decades. This cannot be questioned. This is factual true. They are involved in so many criminal activity that, I mean, but anyway, what I want to point out, that Western ruling elites, Western media, Western governments are trying very hard to distract public, because they know Kyiv regime was involved in this terrorist attack on Russia, and most likely investigation that is underway in Russia will come up with similar conclusions. Most likely. I cannot know for sure, by the way. But they are, during the live stream yesterday, I spoke about this topic, I share my opinion, why I think Kyiv regime was involved, because of the methods, after all, and many other reasons. And I mean, let's wait for investigation. I mean, let's wait for what investigation will say. It may take time, a week, maybe two, but no one can know better than investigators who was behind this terrorist attack. And those terrorists will definitely tell investigators everything. And I believe Western ruling elites, they know Kyiv regime is behind this terrorist attack, and they want to shield Kyiv regime now. It's so obvious, isn't it? But I don't think for Moscow it does mean anything what Western ruling elites are trying to do and who they're trying to shield. If investigation said that Kyiv regime was behind this terrorist attack, then I believe very strong actions will be taken from Moscow. But let's wait and see. First of all, we have to know final conclusions of the investigation. TASS news agency is reporting that head of Hungary's foreign ministry is in Sochi, by the way, in Russia. He will participate in 13th International Forum Atom Expo 2024. Hungary is never hide its interest in cooperation with Russia in several directions, including energy sector and, to be more precise, atomic energy sector. And quite understandable that foreign minister of Hungary is in Russia now. I mean, Hungary is a rare occasion when country NATO member state is acting extremely adequately on the background of what is going on in Ukraine. And relationships between Moscow and Budapest are in good working conditions, as much as they can be, because after all, Hungary is under heavy pressure from Western ruling class constantly. And I guess there will be huge criticism of Budapest again because of the visit of foreign minister into Russia. And before this visit, Peter Szijjártó, head of Hungary's diplomacy, made the statement that deployment of the NATO troops into Ukraine may provoke confrontation between Russia and NATO, and eventually even world war, which is which is true. It may happen, and I shared several times before my take on what might happen if and when NATO troops will be deployed to Kiev regime into Ukraine. For new members of our community, I will repeat that in my personal reading of the big picture, if and when NATO troops will be deployed into Ukraine, if they will stay just in Western Ukraine, then probably it will be possible to avoid direct confrontation between Russian and NATO forces. Because I believe after this conflict will end, Ukraine will be divided, and Western Ukraine will end up under NATO control, and Poland, Hungary, and Romania will make their claims on the areas of the Western Ukraine that used to be part of these countries. In case of Hungary before First World War, Transcarpathia region. In case of Poland and Romania before Second World War. And the rest of the Ukraine will be controlled by Russian forces, although I'm acknowledging that there is slight possibility that Kiev and surrounding areas, Kiev and Kiev region basically, will remain as a quasi-landlocked state on the name of Ukraine on the political map. And therefore, if NATO troops will be deployed into Western Ukraine, which eventually will become under NATO control anyway, in my opinion, most likely there will be no severe clashes, at least, between the Russian and NATO forces. There might be some incidents that, but those incidents will not provoke full-scale war and nuclear exchange. But if NATO troops will move towards Kiev, towards Odessa region, towards Sumy, Chernigov region, or towards Frontline to combat Russian forces, then that's a whole different story. And in that case, well, Moscow is quite clear. High-ranking Russian officials are very clear that NATO troops will be targeted, will be priority target for Russian militaries. So, and of course, in that case, there may be full-scale confrontation between Russia and NATO, and eventually even nuclear exchange. But I believe personally that it is very unlikely, thankfully, that we will see deployment of Western troops into outside of Western Ukraine. And therefore, I believe there will be no direct full-scale confrontation between NATO and Russia or nuclear exchange. Let's see. I know there are many too much talk about possible deployment of French troops in Odessa region, for example. But I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical that Macron will make such a decision, because those troops gonna be destroyed there. So most likely Ukrainian troops will stay in the NATO troops will stay in Western Ukraine, including French troops. But anyway, I mean, let's see how the situation develops. In any case, statement of Szijjártó, foreign minister of Hungary, is of course important, and everyone should listen, especially in the Western countries, in the leadership of the West, because they may provoke, with this irrational and irresponsible policies, they may provoke world war. It's a real risk. And it's not just me saying this, by the way, it's a foreign minister of NATO member state that says this, and many experts, by the way, in the West, many experts and politicians and journalists and ask ordinary people. I believe a significant number, maybe not majority, because majority is under influence of propaganda of the Western ruling class, but significant part of Western society will also say that it's a madness to deploy troops, NATO troops, into Ukraine to combat Russia, because it is madness. Anyway, let's continue. Interfax is reporting that, well, according to CNN, by the way, US propaganda outlet, Israel is agreed to exchange, to conduct exchange with Hamas of prisoners, and well, Netanyahu's government is willing to free 700 Palestinian prisoners for exchange of 40 detainees that Hamas has. So maybe, if this is true, by the way, this is CNN is reporting, so we cannot be for sure, we cannot know for sure, but if Netanyahu's government agrees to ceasefire and agrees to exchange hostages, because if those people are hostages that Hamas is holding, and they are hostages, people that are in hands of Israel are also hostages. Because vast majority of them, I'm 100% convinced, vast majority of them are innocent people and detained for no reason at all. Some of them may commit some crime, but vast majority of people that are detained by Israel are innocent. And it's not just me, but international organizations, by the way, are talking about this. Well, let's see if information is correct and if some kind of deal will be reached by sides. Of course, that will be positive development, especially if Israel will refuse to conduct military operation in the southern part of Gaza Strip. But unfortunately, I'm a little skeptical that Netanyahu's government will de-escalate situation. All we see from Netanyahu and his associates is escalation for many months now, and I don't know if they even are capable of de-escalating now. But let's see what will happen. And finally, RT is reporting that German central bank issues gloomy forecast. The struggling German economy will likely end the first quarter of the year in recession and is not expected to recover for the rest of the 2024. The central bank warned in a monetary report published on Monday. So Germany's economy is in recession. If central bank is talking about it, then I guess it's official, and it's not really surprising. It's not really surprising. German economy is in difficult situation for quite a while now. First of all, because German leadership destroyed relationships with Russia and lose foundation on which this strong industrial base of German economy was built, which is a stable supply of relatively cheap energy from Russia, And well, because of this fundamental shift, I guess this is just the beginning for German economy, and process of deindustrialization will only accelerate, and eventually probably Germany will lose a title of #1 economy in the EU. It's just a matter of time, because of the irresponsible policies of the government of Germany. And this is it for now. How long is this video? Quite short video. Hopefully you will find this update informative, interesting, and useful. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything, any topic. More likes and comments will help to deal with the algorithms on both platforms, on Rumble and YouTube, and reach wider audience. And for very same reason, if you can, please share links to my videos or channels with your friends on any of the platforms that you are actively using. And finally, if you think this channel is interesting, useful, has some potential, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Boosty, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You can see all the links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.